Imagine yourself riding free along the plains, you and your best friend, riding together with the winds brushing against your skin.
Like they say, no road is long with good company.
Besides, it feels like the winds are guiding you, right? Yo guys, what is up? It is Daniel here, back with another Final Fantasy TCG video. This time, it's gonna be a little bit different. This time, I wanted to take some time to talk about one of my favorite Final Fantasy characters, and just like his cards and how he's represented in the game. But that character is going to be, as you can see on the screen here, and from the little voice clip from before, in the little intro that I sort of just threw together, it's going to be Mr. Bartz here. I really freaking love Bartz as not just the main character in Final Fantasy, but, you know, overall, like, he is one of my favorite Final Fantasy characters. Final Fantasy V being one of my favorite Final Fantasy games. I freaking love Final Fantasy V. And all the characters in it. Bartz being just number one for me. Right now, though, we're going to talk about Bartz in the Final Fantasy TCG. So this is going to be more of a sort of video series that I want to do where I just talk about the Final Fantasy characters that I love and like, and how, like, they're represented in the game. And, you know, just in this TCG space. I also might, you know, do this with, like, mechanics and stuff like that I feel like are kind of cool or could be a little bit better in the Final Fantasy TCG, you know, like, card game. Just because I have a lot of, like, thoughts on this game, and I feel very, like, strongly about this game because it is a series that I love and enjoy, and I really freaking love. So, like, just Bartz here being the little goober that he is, you know, he's just, like, really cool in this game. And I'm kind of happy that some of his cards are actually pretty strong. But I do want to take time and talk about every single card of his, you know, just how he's shown in this again. So yeah, you know, come with me on this weird, wacky journey while I yap about cards and characters that I like, you know. Maybe you might learn a thing or two, maybe you might, you know, relate sort of to, hey, I also like this character, or hey, this is also my favorite Final Fantasy, or I love that mechanic, or, you know, something to that ilk. But without further ado, let's get started with the video. So, as I'm going to go through the cards, I'm going to start off from the earliest opus that the character has been in, and I'll talk sort of more like on like the way the card works, how it sort of maybe was intended to be used, decks that use it, things like that. So, starting off here, we're going to have this Opus 1 Rare Bartz, which he is a 4-drop, 8k power wind forward. It basically says he just has all the jobs. Now, this is a pretty cool card. Like, yeah, it's a 4-drop, you know, back in Opus 1, this was kind of neat. Like, 8k power 4-drop with every single job. Not that bad. This is kind of like, it was kind of like a cool future-proof card because of that text. So, you know, he just had a job. This is like sort of a reference to also Final Fantasy V in it of itself, because in Final Fantasy V you know, unlock jobs. And since this is specifically the Dissidia NT Bartz, you know, in that game he basically all of his attacks were just different like jobs. So this makes sense for this card to have literally all the jobs as its text. Just because, you know, it represents Bartz as a character in Final Fantasy, not just Final Fantasy V, but also in Dissidia NT, you know? So, this card was really cool. I really like using this card. I'll sometimes bring it up in, like, a random deck just because he just has it. You know, he just has all the jobs. Pretty neat. The next one from Opus 5 was a heroic card, so it's gonna be the Opus 5H, or sorry, Opus 1H, who kind of messed up there, but that's fine. It's gonna be Opus 1 5-drop EX Burst Wind Bartz. That just says he activates all the characters. Now, this one doesn't really play to anything specific in Final Fantasy V or, you know, even in Dissidia, where this art is from. This is more of just, like, he's a wind card, and he's gonna do, like, wind things. And the wind thing being, he activates all wind characters. This was a pretty cool card in Mono Wind. Sometimes it does get played as a one-of in Mono Wind, just because it's an EX Burst. You don't I don't think you slap this card down necessarily. I mean, you can and just get a free, reactivate on everything, and then you could keep going in Mono Wind. So it's not a bad card per se. He's also 9k, so it does take a little bit to kill him. But yeah, he was just like a generally cool, okay card to have. But that was it for this Bartz. This Bartz isn't anything special. He's just a win card. Just a little win goober. Next up is going to be one of my personal favorite Bartzes. Actually, the next two Bartzes are going to be like some of my personal favorites. But this one is going to be from the sort of Final Fantasy V set. And that being in Opus 3. This is where a lot of the Opus 5, Final Fantasy V characters came from. This is going to be an Opus 3. This is where you got your Lena, the first Faris, King Tycoon Searcher. Kryl was in this, the one with the two different S abilities or something like that. That one was really cool. One of my favorite cards, Mr. Grand Cross X-Def. That card is amazing. I love that card. But this is going to be the Opus 3 Bartz. This is going to be an Opus 3 Legend. And this Bartz is basically going to say, when he is on the field, he gains all of the jobs that you control. So from all of the forwards you have, he will gain those jobs. And then when he has 3 or more jobs, he'll gain haste and first strike. And then when he has 5 or more, he'll gain 3k brave, and he can attack twice. So this Bartz is 6k. When you slap him down, if you have 2 or more forwards, he will then gain the jobs on top of his own job. So since he is a freelancer, he will also take the jobs of everything else. So he could potentially become a 9k haste first strike brave guy that can swing twice in a turn. So think of like 4-colored wool, but this guy can swing twice. This is really cool. I really love this Bartz, and I wish I can run him more in like decks. He is a really awesome 3-drop in my opinion. Like if I had the freaking Giga Wall 7 CP light warrior of light that could just play 3-drops, I would be playing this guy like straight up. This guy is an absolute unit. Sort of his theming is going to be again on jobs. Again, big Final Fantasy V reference being jobs. A lot of Bartz's, theming in the cards has to either revolve around job synergy or what he does with jobs. Things like that. Yeah, this card was just amazing. I really love this Opus 3 Bartz. One of my big key favorite cards in this card game. Next up, it's going to be another big favorite Bartz of mine. This one is like peak Bartz, bro. This was like peak card design, in my opinion, in this game. This is going to be the Opus 7 Legend Bartz. I freaking love this card. This is a 3-drop 7k forward. When he enters, he activates 2 Final Fantasy V characters. So you could technically play this in like a, Warrior of Light deck. He is Job Warrior of Light. This is the first ever Job Warrior of Light Bartz. So this is like really cool. This is they were sort of starting to get into the Warrior of Light like deck play style. And this was, this is like the very, very beginning. Like, we didn't have much of anything back then for, like, Warrior of Light job deck. But this was, like, sort of the start of that. But this Bartz is really fucking cool. Like, you can run this in title and be an absolute monster. This Bartz has 3 different S abilities, which is insano. Basically, his first S ability is choose 1 forward, deal at 5k. Cool. Ping something, just mini Brynhilder, just like, or it's just basically a Brynhilder without the draw. Just ping something 5k. His next one is going to be that he gains 10k power and first strike. So he becomes a 10k forward with first strike. That's pretty strong on a 3-drop, and it only takes 2 S abilities. Yeah, you're going to have to run more Bartz than normal, but hey, with the cards that we're going to look at, maybe there's something there, And then his last one is going to be Rapid Fire. It's going to say, if Bartz used Spellblade and Dual Wield, his other 2 S abilities, then he gains haste and brave and can attack 3 times per turn. So this is actually a neat little reference to Final Fantasy V. If you guys ever played Final Fantasy V and mastered Ranger, you will know Rapid Fire allows you to do multiple attacks in one, like, just click of the attack. As well as, like, Dual Wield being from Ninja, allowing you to hold two weapons, and then Spellblade being from Mystic Knight, which basically, in Final Fantasy V, it just added element to your basic attack. Here, it's gonna do, like, a ping attack, because, you know, there's no, like, there's no real add element, like, damage or anything like that. You don't do more damage to specific elements like that. Most of the times, anyways. But yes, this is, like, an amazing freaking Bartz. I really love this because of the references to Final Fantasy V in it, and because of the way it works. This is a really cool card, and the art is just beautiful. I really love this art. There is a full art version of this card, and I am so happy that I have it, because it looks amazing. It's an amazing card. Yeah, that's basically all I'm going to say about this Opus 7 Legend Bartz. I 100% love this card, and I love what they did with it, and how they represented not only Final Fantasy V, but just Bartz in general in the game with this card. Next up is going to be another sort of... This one is sort of a nod to the Opus 1 Bartz. It's going to be a backup version of that just says, when he enters, he activates all characters. It's the same as the forward Opus 1 Bartz here, but it's a 4-drop backup that you're not really typically going to play out unless you're trying to combo and win the game. This is just a mono win card. Bartz is only a win card except for, like, the one light Bartz. And it makes sense that a lot of his cards have to deal with activation and stuff like that, because of just, you know, him being the sort of wind crystal beacon, or like the wind crystal dude. So it makes sense. But yeah, this is the Opus 10 Common Bartz. Nothing really special about it. Next up is kind of funny. When you search up Bartz, you think about Bartz, and what's the first thing that comes up to your mind? Besides, like, the wind crystal and stuff like that, it's probably going to be his best friend, Boko. And in Opus 12, they did an amazing thing with Bartz, with his hero card, actually, where they said, the forwards of cost 1 you control gain haste. And then when Bartz forms a party, you can play out a 1-drop forward. So, what happens to be a 1-drop forward? Why, Mr. Boko here, who also says if you control Bartz, or the card name Bartz you control, gains 1k power and haste. And then when you do a party attack and it deals damage, you draw a card. So, this combo is actually pretty cool, because there's also a black Chocobo card that's a 1-drop. And that one allows your party attacks to basically become unblockable. So what this whole little, like, combo, like just this whole little thing did was it made a deck where it was just Boko Bartz and a bunch of little 1-drop little shits. That it was just kind of funny, because it was like a really strong synergy, and it still has a lot of relevant synergy even now. You can still run Boko Bartz decks and it be just generally fine. There's a lot of cool 1-drops you can play with. But this was such a neat little nod to the fact that, you know, Bartz and Boko are best friends, and they're kind of, like, inseparable and things like that. And it's like, yeah, Bartz giving the Boko haste and the Boko giving Bartz 1k haste, so he's now, like, you know, a 9k haste forward. And on top of that, you know, Black Chocobo also being a 1-drop, and, like, just most of the Chocobo cards in general being 1-drops. It also plays into the whole, you know, factor of Bartz being the Chocobo guy, you know. It was just a cool little nod that they did. The fact that this card, the Dissidia card, is kind of also just, like, it's like a little mini moot point. There are, I think, a few 1-drop Dissidia cards, but you don't really care for them too much. But yeah, like, Boko Bartz was just it was like a perfect encapsulation of a Final Fantasy V deck. He's also a Warrior of Light. This is when they started, you know, again, they started making Bartz Warrior of Light here. They started really, like, hunkering down and being like, you know, Bartz, Varus, Lena, Cryle, you know, they're going to be warriors of light. They're the warriors of light. And yeah, this is like sort of the beginning of that. Just like, well, sort of, yeah, this is sort of the beginning of that. The first one was going to be this Opus 7 Bartz, and now it's like going to be his thing from moving on forward. But next up is going to be the first introduction of the crystal mechanic, and just like a crystal Bartz in general. It's going to be Opus 15 Hero Bartz. I genuinely love this card. I love the crystal mechanic. I play a Wind Lightning Crystal deck. This card is pretty cool because it says when a Job Warrior of Light enters, other than Bartz, you gain a crystal, right? If you have a crystal, he gains 2k power, so he becomes 10k. And then when a Warrior of Light you control dies, you can pay 3 crystals and play it back onto the field. So this was pretty cool because we also got a Crystal Lena in this set that allowed you to play out, you know, a 2 or 3 drop, I believe. If you paid 1 crystal and then paid 2 crystals as well. So if you paid up to 3 crystals as well, you could do this. You could just play 2 things from your break zone. This was really, really neat, like, synergy with this, because now you can, you know, play Cryle, gain a crystal, things like that, you know, like, it was really cool. The fact that this, his crystal gain isn't once per turn is really nice, because that means you can also, in the later sets, there was a Warrior of Light 2-drop forward that says when he enters, or a Dissidia card enters, you gain a crystal. So that means you could gain 2 crystals potentially off of this, which was pretty cool. And, like, depending on how, you know, Warriors of Light cards end up, this card might end up being, like, really useful later down the line. Just because it gains a crystal, it becomes, you know, 10k. You know, like, it is kind of unfortunate that, yes, we are getting a new Crystal Bartz in the next set, but this was, like, the originator, the precursor to that. Being, like, you know, this is the Wind Crystal Bartz. You know, he is, in Final Fantasy V, he is the sort of keeper of the Wind Crystal. He gets all the, or, you know, he gets the power of the Wind Crystal. And, you know, it just makes sense for him to be a crystal card in general. But I really like this Bartz. Really neat. Amazing card. 10 out of 10. Would try and build a deck around it if I knew what I wanted to play in it. Next up is going to be Opus 16 1-drop Light Bartz. This is the first time Bartz was not a wind forward, or just like a wind card in general. This one is more going to play on to the fact that in Final Fantasy V, in a lot of the cutscenes, you'll see Bartz sort of like protecting people and, like, you know, protecting like his teammates, or like catching Ferris. I know there's like a cutscene in Guido's cave after, you know, you lose Galoof and you have Cryle with you. After the whole antline section, you go into Guido's cave, you know, Xdef shows up and he starts shooting lightning everywhere. He hits Ferris, and then, like, Bartz kind of catches her from behind. So this kind of, like, plays into sort of that, where you can, like, use Bartz to sort of save things and reveal other Warriors of Light and get them back. Things like that. But this Bartz is going to be his effects are just like, pay 4, put Bartz into the break zone, choose a forward, break it. So you can break something with this guy. And then you can pay 2, remove Bartz from the game, reveal top 5 cards, and you can add a Warrior of Light. It's pretty cool because, you know, again, it's sort of like him going, hey, I'm going to, like, not really save, but, like, I'm going to get my allies, you know? This one, again, this one really wants him to be in the break zone, which was pretty neat. It's pretty neat for a Bartz that's going to be in the later set. It's going to be the one down here. It's pretty cool. It got used in a deck before, with Time Warp Bartz, which is later down the line. But yeah, both of these Bartz really encapsulate his whole, like, the Opus 15 and the Opus 16 just encapsulates who he is as a person, in my opinion. Next up is going to be the Opus 18 Bartz. I've used this in a couple of decks. I've used this in my Cadet deck. There's other decks I've used this in Galoof. You know, you could play this in a couple of decks. He's another Bartz that he just gains a job. He also gains an element, which is pretty interesting because not a lot of cards do that. And it's pretty interesting for Bartz in particular because, you know, it's like he's normally a just mono wind card, or, like, you know, just like a wind guy. And then now him coming onto the field, and he can be like, I'll gain another element, as long as it's not light or dark. But he'll gain that element. He'll also just get bigger for each other job that is the same as his. So when he enters, you name a job in an element, you gain the job, you gain the element, and you gain protection from that element. And then, he'll gain power for each job as that's the same as his. So he enters, you call, I don't know, let's just say I'm playing cadets and, I'm playing him in cadets. You call class 0 cadet, right? You call that as your job. Now, for each other class 0 cadet on the field, he'll gain power. It's a cool little nod to sort of Final Fantasy V in the fact that he's sort of job changing, or just like equipping a job, like you're setting Bartz as that job, and it's pretty nice. He'll also stay a Wanderer and Warrior of Light, so that's pretty neat. And then, just being protected by the element that you called is also really nice. So depending on what type of deck you're playing against, Bartz can really just be a nice little counter to that. But yeah, this was that Opus 18 Hero Bartz. It's pretty cool. Next up is probably a Bartz you'll never use and doesn't really need too much to be talking to. It's going to be the Final Fantasy Explorers Bartz. This one wasn't really special in any way, and it doesn't... This is one of the times where they kind of missed the mark on Bartz, because he doesn't really do anything. So, you put Bartz on the bottom of your deck, you tap him, put him at the bottom of your deck, and you draw 2 cards. Neat, I guess. Like, you can sort of phantom block with this Bartz, in a sense. If your opponent tries to attack, you can block with him, and then use his effect to put him at the bottom and draw 2 cards. I guess you can do that, but, like, you're losing that body. It just depends on, I guess, what your deck is running. He isn't really all that special, though. Opus 19 Bartz, not looking good. Not looking good. I think this card is kind of a stinker. But next up is going to be the Opus 21 Starter Bartz. This was pretty much exclusively for Dissidia. But again, it plays into his whole crystal aesthetic. Bartz being the crystal guy, he's kind of just... He gains a crystal, he searches a Dissidia guy. You can search his best friend Squall or Zidane if you guys played Dissidia Duodecim or 012. They were like besties, the 3 of them. Which I kind of find it funny, because I also really love Zidane. And I think putting the 2 of them with Squall is like peak comedy, just because of the way Squall is. But yeah, this one was just, he's just a dude. If he's in the break zone, you can remove him to gain a crystal if you have 2 or more Dissidia forwards. Really playing in on the Dissidia factor, more so of the Final Fantasy V factor on this one. But next up is Opus 22. This is kind of like the quintessential Bartz. This is Time Magic Bartz, or as I call them, Time Warp Bartz, because you're doing the Time Warp of, using his ass, paying the cost, and playing a freaking Warrior of Light. Any Warrior of Light. Doesn't even have to be a forward, it could be a backup, pay that 6, play that Sarah. FFL, go ahead. But yeah, this is a Bartz. Like, this is a Bartz. Like, if we got peak right here, I'm pretty sure this comes close to being, like, the next peak that we got with Bartz. Like, I love this Bartz. His foil looks amazing. They should have made this a full art. I know it's the Amano art, but this is amazing. Like, this is just amazing looking Bartz, bro. If you have this card foil, you know what I mean. He can also remove 3 Warriors of Light from the game to protect them from via abilities. It's cool. I use this in a deck, Warriors of Light deck, Time Magic Bartz. It's annoying. It's amazing. You can do this on your opponent's turn. If your opponent tries to kill your Bartz, you can just Time Magic and play literally anything. You can play your 4-colored wall with this. It is cool. I love this card. 10 out of 10. Next up is a Bartz that I didn't love. 1 out of 10. It's going to be the Opus 24 Bartz. When he enters the field, you choose 2 backups. If any cards were removed, you activate it. It's whatever. I don't understand it. It's a weird mono win card Maybe it will see some cool tech later on. I don't know. Maybe you botanist something away and then you play this guy. I don't know. He's there. That's all I'm gonna say. And then the last Bartz, which hasn't come out yet. It's gonna come out in the next set, Opus 26. It's going to be the new 8-drop 9K Pay 3 Crystal Bartz. This is basically just Wall 7, but like with crystals. And I'm all for it because it's Bartz, because it's crystals, because I like Bartz and crystals, and I like free playing cards. Who doesn't love free playing a card? It's the thing this game does the best. I get to free play a dude from either my hand, deck, or grave. You know, pretty nice card. I'm 100% for it. I love it. I hope that they are printing a Lena Faris Cryo that also deal with crystals to give the deck synergy. Maybe, you know, like a 3-drop Cryo forward or a 3-drop Lena forward that can help you gain crystals. Even maybe like a Faris backup that helps you gain crystals. But yeah, like this card does work again as well with the previous sort of Final Fantasy V dudes like Lena, Faris, Cryo. Mainly because Faris is a 3-drop. I believe it's like Opus 17 or 18. The one that's played in the Wall deck, the one that 1K pings everything. That one is really good with this because if you free play it, you free play it. This also plays backups. It just says characters, so you can play monsters as well. But this playing out a Boko is kind of interesting. This playing out one of the Lenas, it's nice. This playing out, I think there's only like one real Cryo this can play out. Pretty sure there's a backup 2-drop Cryo, but you're probably not playing that. But yeah, they'll probably make a new Cryo. I'm assuming they're gonna make a new Cryo that's a 3-drop that can work well with this. Hell, maybe even a 3-drop Galoof. Who knows? I would really like to see it. Just cards that work with this card in general. It's gonna be general crystal cards, like the Warrior of Light from Opus 21 starter. I could see that working. Yeah, it's pretty fine. But yeah, in general, that's basically all of the Bartz cards that we have, and I'm really happy with how Bartz is represented in this game. Like, for being one of my favorite characters, he has quite a few decks you can play. Like, you can try and do, like, a Bartz, like, just straight up Bartz Rush deck, or you can play, you know, a Giga Wall deck that has this Bartz in it. You can play Boko Bartz. You can do Bartz Crystal shenanigans. Bartz can be teched into decks with, like, Time Magic Bartz, the 1-drop Bartz, this 2-drop Opus 18 Bartz, you know, or maybe you're trying to play Mono Wind. You got backup Opus 10 Bartz and, you know, the 5-drop Opus 1 Bartz. So it's pretty nice that in this game, you can run, you know, Bartz in just different kind of decks, and I'm really happy about it because he is my favorite character, and I like seeing my favorite characters just, you know, be generally good in the game. Just because, you know, it's something I can fall back to and just be like, you know what, I just want to play a deck with my favorite characters. I don't care. And, you know, FF5 having generally good cards and having cards that synergize really well with each other is something that I thoroughly enjoy, and I'm happy with, you know. So I'm really glad that Bartz is represented really well in this card game, you know, because again, they could have just made him more like this Opus 19 or Opus 24 Bartz, where he doesn't really play into Bartz. It plays more into, yeah, he's just a win card, you know, because they could have easily done that, like. You know, they could have easily focused more on just him being, he's just mono wind. He's just a mono wind card. You just kind of just throw him in. And they didn't. You know, they didn't do that at all. They said, nope, we're going to give love and attention to this Bartz. And we're going to make him, you know, feel like he's, like you're playing Final Fantasy V. And I'm not even like skimming over the standard unit Bartz that are just kind of, you know, they're standard units. They play into whatever the role the standard units play into, but they're kind of funny to look at too. But yeah, like this is Bartz in the Final Fantasy TCG, and like you can do some pretty cool stuff with him, and I'm pretty happy with that. I really just I'm happy that he's at least playable in some capacity. And who knows, maybe this new Opus 26 Bartz is going to be the new Gigawall. I'm all for it. I'm a crystal player. I love crystals. You know? But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for me in this video. I just wanted to highlight, you know, the Bartz cards and the cards that I find, you know, fun to use. Characters that I love that have cool cards in this game. You know, and I'm not even going over the Magic the Gathering stuff, because Bartz is really cool in the Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy stuff. You know, and there he plays with the birds, you know, chocobos, basically. And it's pretty cool. You know, I'm happy that, you know, the character I really like is being represented really, really well in these different card games. And, you know, even in Dissidia, like, just to go a little bit off topic here, even in Dissidia, he was represented perfectly. In the PSP ones, he copied the moves, or he had the moves of all the other characters. It sort of represented the job functionality of Final Fantasy V, in it that, yeah, he sort of has the moves of all of the other heroes, and that was his thing. And then in Dissidia NT, they doubled down and said, let's not give him that. Let's actually give him the moves from in his game. And, you know, he has Geomachery, he has the Gill Slash, I forgot what that one is called. That's the Samurai one. He has the dance, you know, like, he was represented really freaking well in Dissidia NT. Say what you want about that game, the way they represented the characters fit perfectly in that game. And I really love the fact that they do that, you know, because they could easily just not have done it. But yeah, so, like, that's basically going to be it for me. This is just what I wanted to do with this type of video, and I kind of want to make this a series of where I just go through characters I like, and just being like, hey guys, this is what I think about this card, or this character, and their cards, and how I feel like they're represented in, you know, the Final Fantasy TCG. But yeah, that's all from me. I might do another one, you know, I mean, I definitely will do another one of these, and it's most likely going to be on my second favorite character, that being from Final Fantasy XI, Shantoto. I really love Shantoto, so, yep. I'm going to end the video here. I'll see you guys in the next video. Laters!